Yo, what's up? And welcome to episode 202 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Woody V. What's happening, man?
Not much, man. Really proud of the Kings, minor premiers. So now bring on the postseason. So really excited.
That was a good effort. They got the minor premiership there, and yeah, not a lot of people would have expected that coming into the season. I think there was a lot of more highly touted teams. But yeah, great effort. Really good final series coming up as well. Which
you weren't one of those people, though, right? You were not surprised.
I was very high. I was very high. I don't know if I hadn't been minor premiers though, but yeah, I was definitely high. I was. But yeah, they've been good. Looking forward to chat some playoff and play and talk as well as we get into the show. Just a reminder, as always, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. So, as always, Woods, we'll start off with some NBL. So we're both rocking some jerseys, and we're both rocking some NBL today. So yeah, take it away.
Well, I've got a question for you now that the regular season has come to an end and the Hawks have their season is over. So just let's reflect back on the season of one of their players.
Woods is standing up rocking the number 6 Illawarra Hawks William Davo Hickey jersey. Unfortunately, your one's not signed like mine is, Woods, but it's still nice. Yeah.
You ordered these two together, right, from memory?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got the black one, you got the red one.
Yeah, that's right. That's awesome. Yeah. Look, so at the start of the season, the big talk was can Davo Hickey elevate his game to be a starting point guard in this league? And Justin Tatum was like, he's my guy, right? And by the end of the season, Davo Hickey ended up on the bench. He did have his moments, if I'm not mistaken. He's the only player to record a triple-double this season. I don't think anyone else did, right? So he did have his moments, but like, how do we reflect back on his season? And what is his future in the NBL? So it's a good question, right?
Yeah, look, it was a mixed season, obviously not just for him, but for the whole team there. And I think, maybe it was his fit alongside some of the imports. We saw a couple of different import combinations work there, and maybe that was something that threw him out a little bit there. There was also some talk that, maybe clashed a little bit with JaVale McGee, certainly early on in the season in practice and those sort of things. So, and look, I think all in all, he had a pretty good year. Look, you're obviously always going to be the expectations coming in, knowing that he was, basically had that finals MVP, lost it on a technicality last season sort of thing, but it depends. I think you weren't expecting to see him come out and average 20 points and 8 assists and 5 rebounds a game, but I think he was pretty good on a team that clearly had a lot of issues. I think this is the sort of season this season with the Illawarra Hawks. They could probably make a doco or write like a book or something like that, because I'm sure there's going to be stuff that comes out. I think we're privy to a little bit of things which we haven't spoken about and probably won't, that happen behind the scenes there. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a whole lot more things as well there. But yeah, I'd say probably all in all he was fine. He was solid.
I agree with you, and like that environment he had, Finals MVP, right? Or like. Yeah. Delhi gave him the Finals MVP, whatever. He was the best player in the final series last season, right? But you had that Trey Kell. He had Tyler Harvey and Trey Kell was starting. He was coming off the bench, and a few more veterans around him, and being that combo guard, not being thrown into that one position to lead that team. Because as you said, some of the guys around him, Tyler Harvey, QJ Peterson, right, didn't really have a point guard around him this season, right? Yeah. So last year, having those pieces around him in that bench role, it really suited him. And I think in the future, on a championship level team, I think that's kind of what he has to look forward to in the NBL, right?
Definitely. And I'll be interested to see where his off-season ends up as well, because, last season he played NBL 1 with Sydney Comets. The year before he was with the Albury Bandits, Albury Wodonga, and he's still unsigned at the moment. So he's, as far as we know, I'm not sure, he might be going back to Sydney Comets. I've got no intel at the moment. So maybe he decides to maybe take some time off.
Overseas opportunities is always something that could happen, right?
But given that, I don't think he's had an off-season for a while now, right? Because all his off-seasons he's been playing some sort of basketball. I think he might have even had a season in New Zealand where he played in the New Zealand NBL, maybe before the Albury Wodonga year. So, yeah, interesting to see what he does there. But, yeah, looking forward to see how he goes next season. Hopefully I get to call him as in the NBL 1 East again this year.
Yep, always a big fan of Davis.
For sure. All right, appreciate that, Woods. Well, I'm rocking an NBL jersey as well. So thinking about it today, I feel like I hadn't done an NBL jersey for a while, so it was only fitting I wore this guy after the way he played last week, so I'll show you who I'm wearing.
For those who can't see, Robbie is wearing the Perth Wildcats number 24 Jesse Wagstaff jersey. And No, I know why he's got that jersey on today.
Bit of a retro jersey. This one. What's this one? It was the And One sponsor. So this is a while
early
ago.
noughties.
No, I think it was around the 2010-11 mark, something like that. So it's an old one. It's
it would have been
not
late
quite
noughties, maybe.
not quite a rookie jersey, but it's probably a few years after that. But didn't have a whole lot to talk about him, but I thought, as I said, only fitting that I'd wear this. I just wanted to talk about how good he was, firstly, in that big win against Adelaide last week. He had a lot of minutes there. I was kind of watching it like, I hope this isn't some sort of farewell. They're giving him a big... But he was so good out there, Woods. I mean, you watched the game. He spent half the game on the floor. I was looking today, and all the positive metrics and everything like that. He shot a great field goal percentage. Just all the smart moves. He just really sets that great screen and roll, doesn't he? And also does that... He had a couple of times where he had a smaller defender on him. He just got the seal down low and they passed it in. He just went up and he's so smart. He can shoot over both shoulders there. Such a versatile player still. So, look, obviously my thoughts on Jesse Arnone. He's one of the absolute legends of Perth Wildcats basketball. But I wanted to ask a non-Wildcats fan, Woods. This is someone that's copped a little bit of flack over the years for maybe perceived acting and those sort of things. I think that's dropped off a little bit more the last few years. But a non-Wildcats fan, how do you rate Jesse Wagstaff? What are your thoughts on him?
Just the ultimate role player, and longevity, and a great teammate. He's part of the culture that's been built there over the last how many years? 15, 16. How many seasons has he been there? Something like that, right?
Yeah, it's over 16 now.
Yeah, whatever, right? He's been there for the best part of 2 decades. And I just think that he's the guy that has, he was a young guy initially, but now as he's come through, all these younger fellas have come under his tutelage, learned what it is to be a pro, how to fit into that professional lifestyle, whether it be guys coming from overseas, even younger guys he's helped, or the local guys like Ben Henschel and Elijah Pepper recently. So it must be gold for having a guy like that in the locker room, right?
Oh, no doubt. And look, he's like an extension of John really and that coaching stuff as well. I mean, I've seen it firsthand where a player will come off the court and he'll be the first one that goes over to him and offers words of encouragement. I think he's one of those people, he'll always offer words of encouragement first, and then if he needs to give some, less positive feedback, he'll do that. But he would certainly, make a great coach, when his career ends. How many more years has he got, Woods? I think it's just entirely up to him. I think if he decides he wants to go 2 more years, the Wildcats will have him. I don't know. He obviously loves the game. I'd be, devastated if he didn't come back next season. Do you reckon he's still got another 1 or 2 more years?
Man, he could get the Joe Ingles, Udonis Haslam contract for a few more years. Yeah. Why not talk about that guy helping these guys off the floor? In fact, recently, even a guy like Alex Sarr came out and said, Jesse Wagstaff, and then the positive influence he had on him in Perth. So, the metrics are not just what he's going to give you off the court, in the locker room. And when his number's called, he's still going to be able to step up and play a role for you, right?
Yeah.
So,
what a legend, right? I should say as well, Woods, these white Wildcats jerseys are quite rare. So pretty much on Wildcats, the team store for at least the last 10 years, they do not sell white jerseys, right? They obviously want to sell red jerseys. They want everyone in the jungle to be wearing red. So the white ones are a little bit harder to come by. I don't even remember where I got this one, but I'm liking this. And obviously Woods 24, for those keen listeners, it's my favourite number, always has been since the days of Jimmy King playing for the Michigan Wolverines. So always good to rock a Wildcats 24. And shout out to Jesse Wagstaff. We hope he has a good final series. So
yeah, for sure.
Well, card of the week. Okay, sticking with the NBL theme, and it's pretty much the opposite of Jesse Wagstaff, I'd say, Wood. So the card I'm showing this week, it's a NBL 2025 Topps Chrome Auto card of the 6'8", 18-year-old Mexican who yesterday, let's face it, played his last game for the New Zealand Breakers. I'm talking about none other than Karim Lopez. So one of the oldest, or if not the oldest guy in the league, and is Lopez the youngest? He'd have to be. He's only 18, unless there's some DP type guys. But in terms of guys that are contributing there, so really nice card. This is the current set, Woods. It's actually really hard to find this one. So I'm not sure if I mentioned it to you offline or on the show, but I think a lot of people bought these cards when they came out, knowing that he was a possible lottery pick for this year. A lot of people in the Mexican community around the world were really keen on this guy and snapped up those cards. That was a hard one to get, but I wanted to sort of throw you some stats. So he's basically ended up this season with 12 points a game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and he's averaging about over 2 combined steals and blocks of the old stock stat that we like. 49% from the field, 32% on the 3-point line there. He's been really fun, seeing he's clearly been the standout next star this year, and there's probably daylight between him and second. Probably Malik Lewis will be the second one. I wanted to ask you, Woods, they list him as a 2/3. What position do you see him playing in the NBA?
Yeah, I think probably 3-4 maybe, right?
He's a big unit.
He's got to bulk up a little bit, right? to be able to match up with other fours in the NBA. He's a bit of a tweener even now, right? Like it's hard to tell between. I mean, as a two in the NBA, does he have enough ball handling and ability to create his own shot? And
right, create some matchup problems. Well, that's a good point you mentioned that, Woods. I mean, Jalen Johnson started for our Hawks today, very similar size and sort of weight, these guys, and Jalen Johnson was very skinny when he came out of Duke. So I think Karim Lopez has got that body shape that he will be able to bulk up. I mean, this is a guy that was 14-year-old kid playing in Mexico that was already getting professional offers around the world. His dad played with the Mexican national team, which is pretty cool as well. But hasn't this been a great story? This isn't the usual sort of American that comes down here. A guy from Mexico. I mean, you could count all the Mexican players that have played NBA probably on one hand, right? You boys like Eduardo Nahara and some of these sort of guys. There hasn't been a lot of them over the years. But what are your thoughts? Because his mock drafts have changed a bit. I think he's maybe dropped out of that top 10. Do you think he'll go? He's definitely a top 20 pick, isn't he? Or
yeah, just on potential alone, he's so young. He's already had a couple of years in the pro system. I also got to say, I know this is probably slightly off topic, but this New Zealand Breakers team has been a good place for him to go and grow. Coach Kopp has been great. All the guys around him, they just seem like good guys that like each other in New Zealand, right?
Well, they've been a good team for next star players in general, haven't they? You look like guys like Usman Dieng, and they've had a couple of guys over the years that have gone well. The RJ Hampton one, I don't even know where RJ Hampton is these days, Woods, but they certainly gave him that decent enough stepping stone. He was drafted, just didn't quite deliver on the court, but they've been a team that's really nailed that next star thing, haven't they? So we'll talk a little bit more about them in the NBL, but I just thought I'd show, as I said, I'm sure Jesse is the oldest player, he'd have to be, right? So a bit of Jesse Wagstaff, and then Karim Lopez, a nice auto card there from that NBL Chrome tops range there.
And to answer your question, if he's still available in the 20s, you just have to take him on the potential alone, man. So
the Hawks have got around 20 or something, maybe, from what I'm sort of working out there. So that'd be cool to get him there. I'll be happy to, he could sort of be that protege under Jalen Johnson, right? So all right, nice. Appreciate that, Woods. Well, plenty to talk about. I thought we'd start off with some NBL this week, right? And we got to watch a pretty good game yesterday, didn't we? It was a strange round. The round actually finished on Friday, and we'll talk a little bit about that. No game on Saturday night. And then Sunday we had the Ignite Cup final. So the mid-season tournament, I think that's what the Ignite Cup's classed as, right? The mid-season tournament. New Zealand won a thrilling game against Adelaide yesterday. It was one of those ones that looked like it could go either way. I thought maybe Adelaide in the fourth quarter were going to take it, but some great play by New Zealand. Parker Jackson Cartwright, some of the stuff he did, going coast to coast, taking bumps off people and putting it in. But what were your thoughts on this game? You enjoyed it, right?
I did, and I know this game was on a Sunday, but the Breakers like playing on a Wednesday throughout the season, right? And for these guys, they had something to play for, right? I mean, you look back on their season, they won the preseason, they just one game out of getting into the play-in tournament, right? All the way to the Ignite Cup final, and these young guys really wanted it, Sam Menenga set the tone early, saying he doesn't want Adelaide to be lifting that trophy. Karim Lopez going off to the NBA. He's been part of this system for a couple of years. What a great story, as you mentioned earlier. It all ties into that narrative, right? And you saw Parker Jackson Cartwright. He's embedded in this New Zealand culture, with the New Zealand Breakers as well. He's coming back next year. There's talk of him naturalizing. He wears his heart on the sleeve. It means a lot for him to be a breaker. And you saw that yesterday. And as you said, man, some of those, he grabs the rebound or he gets the ball off the glass. He's just going coast to coast, and you know how difficult it is to finish with such speed and not even stopping on a dime, man. He's just 100%. Already moving just ridiculous, and he makes players around him better, right?
Do you reckon maybe he's listened to a bit of that talk, Bryce Cotton this and Kendrick Davis that? He's like, come on guys, I'm still in this conversation as well. I think he is in that conversation. I know a few people have said, and look, I'm not saying anything bad to the Tasmania Jack Jumpers there, but wouldn't it have been cool to see New Zealand get that final spot? They're healthy at the moment, right? They've had some injuries. Brockington probably had his best game, or certainly one of his best halves of the season yesterday, and looked, really springy and full of energy and that. So, I think they could have given Melbourne a really tough game in an elimination playing game there. But look, that's not the way it worked out. They had some, dull patches during the year where perhaps they might be kicking themselves there. But what were your thoughts on the Ignite Cup in general? It was pretty good. I think I said to you before, I still think the casual fan maybe doesn't quite understand what it is. But in terms of putting on a spectacle, a standalone game for the whole weekend, basically, in Gold Coast, I thought they did a pretty good job there.
Yeah, definitely. The Ignite Cup as a whole, I mean, it picked up, once you got an idea of how the point system worked and everyone was aware of the ladder and everything, people got interested. It's another day of basketball on a Wednesday night. So firstly, I think it's been great. It's here to stay. And to the people of Gold Coast, great to have New Zealand playing in the game. There's a huge community of Kiwis over in that part of the world. So I think it's a great advertisement for the sport in that region. I think we're going to get into it a little bit later. But love the Ignite Cup.
Geez, Gold Coast are getting that next franchise, are they? I mean, honestly, the pre-season Ignite Cup,
just then,
100%. I mean, and look, let's hope if they do, it works out. The stadium certainly is pretty good, isn't it? I think it's the stadium holds its own. It looked good on TV. It's I think the fans are ready for it now. So we'll talk about that in the true false thing about this expansion in the NBL. But all in all, it was a good game there. And congratulations on to New Zealand Breakers. And you can tell it meant a lot to them, right? Some of these lesser guys that aren't on the big money, right? They haven't probably said what the split would be. I'm assuming they just split it down, evenly, and everyone gets their even share of the pie. So if someone's on that minimum contract, what was it, 300,000? Let's say they get, what is it, 30,000 each? Is it 10 players? I don't know.
I reckon there'll be coaching staff and stuff as well, right? So probably like at least 10K each.
Yeah, so that could be like a decent bonus, right, for someone that's not on a big contract. And it was good to see. So shout out to New Zealand. I feel like every neutral fan was going for New Zealand in that game. Is that safe to say?
That's safe to say. But talk to me a little bit about Adelaide. I know this is a game that they really wanted to win. I mean, Bryce was out to get it. The guys were disappointed at losing it. Vukocevic, he's just putting in good game after good game, man. He's very impressive. But Adelaide as a whole, they've got some things to be concerned about, right?
It was probably a good warm-up for them, though, wasn't it? We know there's the FIBA break this week. So to go in an important game like that, yes, they didn't win, but in the grand scheme of things, they want the NBL Grand Final, the NBL Championship this year. So maybe that was a good little warm-up for them. They can make some adjustments over this next, a week and a half, I guess, before they play next. But yeah, you're right. A few little concerns, but I think maybe a bit more credit needs to go to New Zealand for the style of play and the quality that they had on that team yesterday and what they put out there. So New Zealand, hopefully they can build on this and come back stronger next season, because they're a team that's traditionally been a finals team. They've had some great seasons in the NBL, and like you said, someone like the law firm Parker Jackson Cartwright, having him coming back, I mean that's always going to put you in good stead there. So. All right, well, there's been a lot of talk about these NBL Awards, Woods. We should say the time of recording, it's Monday the 23rd of February, so the Gazies are on tonight. Will you be watching firstly before we get into this? Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, see how some of these awards go. But we thought we'd just sort of break it down a little bit. So initially last week they did an extended sort of list of players there, and geez, there's a lot, right? I'm looking at the initial list for the Andrew Gates Trophy for most valuable player, and there was about 10 guys on that. It was almost like every team had one or two players, which is pretty funny. But they have shortened those lists there, so we're going to go through them. So we'll start off with the MVP award, right? So it's a 2-horse race. No surprise to anyone. It's between Bryce Cotton and Kendrick Davis. There's been a lot of talk about this, hasn't there? A few people today even saying, wouldn't it be great to see a tie? I think the last tie was maybe 94, I think I read. Scott Fisher was involved in that with Gaze, I believe. Who's winning this tonight?
Before we get into that, Robbie, can you? I think you listed earlier who are the judges here.
It's a good question. Well, Gazy's one, right?
You had them here.
Olgun's another. You're right. I do have them there, don't I? So, so we know Olgun Ulich. So we've got Gazy, Olgun, Derek Rucker, Michael Cedar, and John Casey.
Yeah, okay, Michael Cedar. That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
That's a random one, isn't it?
Shout out to Michael Cedar, brother of Chris Cedar, Townsville Croc, teammate of Corey Homicide Williams. Shout out to him, man. That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
What's the link with him getting on there? It's a strange one, isn't it? I'm not saying she shouldn't be there, but it does seem a little bit strange. The rest of them are pretty much all the ESPN commentary crew, right? So,
he's Indigenous, maybe that's why, right? Representation from that community. I don't know.
Okay.
Possible,
maybe there's sort of more, people sort of state-based. Maybe they wanted someone representing the Queensland side. But anyway, that's the judges there. Look, a lot of experience going to that. Guys like John Casey, absolute legends of the game that have been around it since, the 80s. Before you were probably even old enough to watch NBL. He was calling games back then.
Yep.
So, yeah. All right, so MVP. Who wins tonight, Bryce Cotton or Kendrick Davis?
I think Kendrick Davis just.
You think Kendrick wins it?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. No, definitely Cotton's going to win it. I'm not saying that, would you be happy with a tie, firstly? Or?
I'd be happy with either one winning or a tie, right?
Yeah, it feels like this is the closest one for me. I think it's going to be Bryce Cotton. I think perhaps the early start to the season, maybe when Sydney weren't putting up the numbers and Kendrick Probably it wasn't getting maybe as noticed as much of these big win streaks. I think that's what maybe separates Bryce Cotton there.
Oh, fair.
You know, a lot of people have had their opinions and put out, you know, various stats. Shout out to our boy Sid, who put out some good arguments for, you know, per 36 minutes and stuff. But I think at the end of the day, Cotton will win it, and that would just cement his legacy even further. But I'm all for the tie. You know, we must say as well, by the time this comes out tomorrow, all this would have been decided, so people will know. So we'll either look stupid or we'll get spot on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, tie would be nice.
Yep.
All right, well, let's go to the next one. So we're going to go to the, what do we got? So let's go to the Lindsay Gaze Coach of the Year. And great that this award is named after an absolute legend, someone I absolutely admire in Lindsay Gaze. So this is two people in contention there. So you've got Brian Gorgian from your Sydney Kings or Josh King from the South East Melbourne Phoenix. I'll start off with this one. This is a Josh King award for me, this one, Woods. And look, both of these teams, you know, they didn't have the fanfare at the start of the year that maybe your Melbournes and your Adelaides did, but certainly, you know, I think even South East, some people didn't even have them, you know, making the play-in, did they? I think some people had, you know, them finishing seventh and stuff like that. I think Josh King's done a really good job this year. It hasn't all been easy for them, right? They've had a couple of imports that didn't quite work out, let's face it there, so they've made a couple of changes and had to get guys, you know, on the same page. I think he just got an amazing season from Nathan Sobey that led them from the front there. I'm going to say Josh King wins this one. Am I wrong? Does your boy Gorge win it?
I'm definitely going to say we're going to go with Gorge here, right?
Wow.
But
so you're just going to pick all Sydney guys?
No, I'm going to give you my justification, right?
Okay.
Like, okay, at the end of the season, for starters, the Kings just took care of things and became, you know, the minor premiers, while SEM are now in a play-in at third, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just that last...
What was the win difference? Was it one win? Two wins?
Yeah, I think it's like one or two. I can't... Yeah, something like that. Not much, right?
Yeah.
I'll double check that. But I think, like, what people don't realize, or some people might not realize, is Gorge was like 2 or 3 games away from getting the flick, man. I'm not even joking, right?
Well, you were calling for his head last year, let's face it, right?
Like, no, not completely, but yeah, you know, like, I would have understood if they were moving in another direction, right?
So you didn't say you were going to drive him to the airport or something like that?
No. I don't think I said that. Did I say that?
Well, it sounded good anyway. You probably didn't, but...
I did not say that.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. All right, cool. So, yeah, Gorge marginally.
Okay, all right. With two different ones. I think Josh King. I think they nailed it with this one, right? Look, Mike Wells maybe a little bit unlucky. Maybe his antics on Friday night was the reason why he shouldn't be there, which that was rubbish anyway. But yeah, look, I think deserving winners, whoever gets these ones there. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, isn't it? Can you have a tie in that as well? We're going to go all ties in these awards. Who knows?
That's like really, really unlikely, right? It's actually got to be the votes like marrying up to be the same, right? Like that's the chances of that happening are.
That's true. That's true.
Very unlikely.
All right, let's go to most improved player. So this is always an award that you hear even people talking in the NBA voting. It's not it's a weird award, right? Sometimes it can be a star that wins this, and we've talked about it before on an NBA with guys like Ja Morant, who was basically a star and just went a little bit of a level and have won awards like that. But 3 pretty deserving candidates, I would have thought here. So we've got Flynn Cameron from the Adelaide 36ers. Your boy, and how's the Sydney guy say it? Is it McQuatch Malawach or whatever he says it? He says it so many times, it was kind of annoying my daughter the other week. But anyway, from Sydney, and you've got Sam Menenga, who we spoke about from New Zealand. I'm really not sure of this one. Please don't tell me you're going to say Malawach and make it 3 Sydney Kings, but who are you going for this one?
Sam Menenga, man. Like, you know, like, seriously, JaVale McGee's just come out and said, this guy, out of everyone I've played in the NBL this year, right, this is the guy that's most NBA ready. And, you know, I know I like to look at guys in different positions, but when I'm talking about guys I go up against, this guy's got the athleticism required, the ability to shoot the ball. You know, that's a high praise coming from an NBA veteran. And Menenga to have this ascension this year, I never expected it, so I'm going to give it to him, right? Yeah.
Fair. Look, I tried to make a case when I thought about this today. I thought Flynn Cameron's been really impressive, right? He might be the one that a lot of people will think straight away. I mean, he had some moments last year with Melbourne United. He was probably that most under the radar signing that Adelaide got him. I think he's been really good there. I think he's someone that's improving. And McQuatch Malawach, right? He's someone that, you know, no one would have thought about at the start of the season contention for this. He is just improved out of sight, right? He's someone that, look, if you had a graph of his play every season, he's got better and better. I know you've definitely got a soft spot for him, right? You've got his Kings jersey and everything else like that. He's been just so reliable this year. I mean, he's more than a 3-and-D player as well, right? He can get up the court, he can throw it down, he can guard multiple positions, and just improved every facet of the game there. So, but in saying that, I do think Sam Meninga, I think, look, he's the best of those 3 players. So if we go on that thing before they've taken the leap, and he wasn't incredible last year, was he? He had his moments there, but clearly having that off season, I think he played in Puerto Rico, either with or against JaVale McGee, who you mentioned before. And some of these, guys that can play against high level opposition in the off season, you see it's being a good thing for them. But I mean, he's just come back to Australia now. He's got an improved shot. He seems more bouncy and more springy than he was before. I mean, he's just trying to take bodies every game and dunk on people there. So, well, that's going to be the first one we agree on, Woods. I think Sam Meninga for that one there.
Yep.
So, the next award, I still don't like this one, Woods. It's the Step 1 Next Generation Award. So, I'm a traditionalist. I like that Rookie of the Year, right? So I like the Rookie of the Year
So can Sam
award.
Froling win it this year?
So Samson Froling apparently is not eligible this season. So look, we'll probably be joking
He'll
about
still
that
be
in
eligible.
5 years.
He'll still be eligible when he's
Pretty
30
much.
something, right?
Season 10 he'll still be. But so look, we love that joke about it. No, he's not in contention this year, I believe. I believe it's 25 and under. So and look, what a field we've got here, Wood. So we've got Karim Lopez, just mentioned him before. Sam Meninga, who we just spoke about. And Owen Foxwell, who's just, I think everyone likes to call this guy a kid. He's actually 22, so he's not a kid. I sort of laugh every time. He looks young, but he's not a kid. The guy's 22 years old.
He might be going to college next year.
Yeah, well, isn't there a guy that's already played NBA this year that's maybe go back this year? So some strange rules there. But maybe I'll start off with this one. Look, had I maybe not have given Meninga the most improved award, I might have gone for him in this one. I want to pick the youngest guy to win this one, Woods. And, with all respect to Owen Foxwell, who I really like, I think he's a really good player and had a great year. I want Karim Lopez to win this award, right? So he's the guy that I'm voting for. I don't have much more to say than that, apart from him being the youngest and him having an amazing year. But, really good field, this one. I think they've nailed it with the 3 selections. But, who are you picking for this one?
I'm going to be different. I'm going to go with Owen Foxwell, right? And I don't mind your decision to go with Karim Lopez. But you look at Owen Foxwell, he's a starting point guard on a championship level team. Yes, that has been Coach King, and that probably goes and backs your argument up a little bit more about how good a Coach King is and how he's developed guys like Foxwell. Got an MVP caliber season out of Nathan Sobey, right? Great coach.
Yeah.
But Foxwell I would have never thought that he'd be this good, right?
No.
And so I'm going to give it to him because he just feels like he looks like the youngest guy, man. Like he deserves this award, right? Because
he's fearless as well, isn't he? I love the way he doesn't
baby
care
face
who he's
assassin,
on. Yeah,
right?
he'd be a pest to play against. Yeah. We've seen a few run-ins with various people this season, so no, it's a good selection. So look, we might be both wrong there, and Sam Meninga, scoops both awards. I wonder if that'll be in the voters' mind. Hey, we want to make sure this is spread out a little bit there, and we'll see how we go with that. But all deserving selections there. 6 man, this was another hard one, right? So we've got Angus Glover, we've got your boy Kawhi, who's won it 2 years in a row or 1 year? Is it
just last year? Just
last year, right? And Majok Deng. So Majok Deng, it's funny. I sort of feel like I saw him start quite a bit. He obviously met that threshold of bench games there. I think it was just through the injuries that he played there. So I'm going to say, Woods, we both throw him out, right? Majok Deng.
Yeah, he's out.
Okay, so he's out. So it's between Kawhi and Angus Glover. Are you going to shock me here and pick a non-king, or are you going Kawhi?
No, big shot, Kawhi.
Okay, all right.
Yep,
man, this is a tough one as well. And look, I think they've got it right with this selection here. I think Angus Glover's changed a lot of games and had some big moments, hasn't he? He's had some games where he's just shot the team and got wins off there. I don't like agreeing with you, and I don't like picking Sydney for many things, but I think that consistency for Kawhi, he's embraced that 6-man role, hasn't he? He's come out, he's lobbied for himself to win it. It's kind of funny. He really wants to win. I think he's got T-shirts made up and stuff like that. It's almost like those guys trying to make the All-Star game in the NBA there. But look, I think he's back to back would be pretty deserving. He has been consistent, hasn't he? Right? He's always someone that's playing great ball for Sydney. And do you think Glover's a chance, or do you think Kawhi's got it? So you think he's a chance?
It's a coin toss, yeah.
It feels like Sydney are in contention with so many of the awards. So you might be one of these ones where you're just cheering everything tonight, Woods, or you're really grumpy with some of these selections here. But we'll see what we go. It'd be nice for Perth to actually get nominated in one. And look, our next category, we do have a Perth Lions player. So, all right, Defensive Player of the Year. Look, this is a some good votes here. We've got Christian Doolittle. We've got John Brown III. So I feel like South East Melbourne have literally had someone in every one of these categories here. And we've got Will Magnay. So are we going to do the same thing and drop the Tasmanian out as well? Like
he's out. He's out.
Right. He's out as well. Sorry, Jack Jumpers fans, but that's our thought there. So it's between Christian Doolittle and John Brown III. I'll start, Woods. I know what you're expecting me to say, but I'm probably not. I think I'm going to go John Brown III for this one. I love the way this guy goes about it. Yeah, look, he can match up with probably 4 different positions on the court, and you see how hard he makes life for players out there. So look, as much as I'd love to see Doolittle win it and get some sort of award for a Wildcat tonight, it's John Brown for me. And you're obviously thinking the same, right?
Yeah, definitely. And why do we not have a all defensive team? It's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
What a joke. Like some other guys, Xavier Cooks, give me a few other names, right? You can throw into the mix there, right? Zylan Cheatham, right?
Yes, Cheatham, definitely.
Like all these guys, you want to pick 5, right? That can, so that really disappoints me.
I wonder why that is, Woods. How can we lobby to get that stuff done?
It's a joke, man.
We got a little bit of sway now. We can get this lobby, can't we? But it's just weird, isn't it? Look, they don't have to go out and name 2nd and 3rd teams and things like that, but just name a 5, right? I think it'd be fun to do that and sort of have that legacy over the years.
How is Will Magnay nominated ahead of Zylan Cheatham?
That's a strange one, isn't it? Yeah, that is a strange one. Look, he had a decent season when healthy, which we know is a massive if for him, but Cheatham was clearly the best defensive player on that 36ers team all year.
And he was healthy and he played more games, right?
He did. So strange one, right? All right, so look, not a lot of differences between our votes there. I mean, look, the other awards, we're not going to go through these, but they named the All-NBL first and second teams there. Then you've got a couple of random ones. You've got Executive of the Year, Referee of the Year. Then you've got some, Champions Fan MVP. What about favourite podcast? Do you think Throwback Hoops is a chance, or do you think we'll be Brad?
I think the NBL.
That one, right?
I think the NBL Now one. That's on the streams every day.
Maybe,
that might be it. Shout out to our boy Jack Everett. Doing a few
shout out to those. And I'm assuming Jack will be the MC tonight. We know he's just got that mega $1 deal to go and do AFL for Channel 7, so I wonder if he'll be hanging around, but I'm sure he'll be the MVP, the MC of that tonight. So we're looking forward to it. As we said, by the time this comes out tomorrow, all these awards will be known, but looking forward to it. And it's the MVP, right? This will be the one that, they try and string this out and make it the very last thing on the show and try and get ratings, but bring on the tie, right? If we can't get, I'll be happy with the tie.
Jason Kidd, Grant Hill.
Exactly, yeah. That's it's so much harder in the NBA for a tie, right? Because it's a huge group of voters that do it. It's a lot smaller group there in the NBL. So I'm wondering whether they have to have a general consensus there. Because what do we say? Is there 5 or 6 guys on that panel there? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that makes sense to 1, 2, 3, 5. That makes sense, right? So you've got an odd number there, so you get the general consensus. So does that mean there can't be a tie? I mean, how do we go with that? Can they vote for a tie, for example? Like John Casey, right? He's like, what? I've seen Bryce Cotton firsthand. Kendrick Davis, I saw him last year. I'm voting for a tie. I guess we'll find out at the Gazies come on tonight, right? So, all right, we'll quickly go to some NBA. So we haven't done a Hawks talk for a while, so we thought we'd just do a quick Hawks talk. And, it was nice to see our Atlanta Hawks have a win today against a pretty lowly opposition in Brooklyn Nets, but they got the win regardless. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it. So the Hawks are now, 28-31, I believe. If I'm not mistaken there. So, about 3 games under 500. They've moved ahead of Charlotte. They're a couple of games behind Miami. I can't see them really going any further than that. They got a bit of a run on potentially. They could pass Miami, but they're not going to go higher than that. So 100% they're in the play-in, which is where they seem to go every season. Look, they seem to be pretty healthy at the moment. You look at that team today, everyone was healthy and playing with the exception of new arrival Jonathan Kuminga. He's the guy I want to ask you about as well, Woods. I know you're someone who's a bit of a fan of Kuminga. You've mentioned him on the show before. What do you see his fit being with the Hawks there? There's been some talk, maybe there's a bit of a clash with Jalen Johnson and other guys, but there's talk he might be back next season. What do you think his fit is, and are you excited to see him in a Hawks jersey?
I'm definitely excited to see him in a Hawks jersey, and I've got to put my hand up here, Robbie, and say I was wrong. Initially, I thought he would probably be coming off the bench for us, but lately, watching Risa Shea, I'm not sure that's the case. Like Risa Shea has been, he's been struggling of late, right? And we saw today the starting lineup. CJ started today, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I'd like to see potentially. I know I didn't want to see Dyson and Kuminga play in that starting lineup together, but I mean, in terms of defensive versatility, I think I would go with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels, Kuminga. Jalen Johnson and Okongwu, right? And,
Can I play a bit of devil's advocate on that one, Woods? Because
yeah.
look, Kuminga's barely played all season, right? You want him to come into a new team that he still hasn't played, and you want him to start? I mean,
maybe not right away, right? Maybe we get some reps into him, get him fit and get him into match fitness and condition and ready to contribute. But
see, for me, I like him as a six man. I think he's a guy. He's got a lot of confidence. I think you can bring him on against those second units and just basically say, right, we want you to go out there and score double figures, get some shots up in a hurry. But no, I do see your point. Zachary Sachet really struggled against Miami. I think he was scoreless until about 2 minutes left before he hit a meaningless three there. And he's been a little bit struggling. His defense has been something that has impressed me. He's definitely a solid defensive player, but they did make the change today and they had a win, so you wonder if they'll maybe stick with that. But yeah, Kuminga apparently back next week. So, look, just another weapon to add to this team, right? They're on a bit of a homestand at the moment, the Hawks as well. I think they've got next 3 or 4 in a row. These games you've got to win, right, because they've been a little bit shaky on the road. But, well, you mentioned Onyeka Okongwu. Let's talk about him and the other big man in the middle there, Wood. So, our boy, Jock Landale. And I've got to say, we've got to get some money together and do a jersey order. We have to get that Jock Landale Hawks.
Definitely.
Jersey. Like we did the Davo Hickey jersey wearing, we'll do a double order there and get some Jocks.
Sure thing.
We'll talk about that offline. I think they're proving to be a pretty good combo in the middle. Jock Landale today, especially in that first half, really came out and he was electric, right? He was hitting threes. He's a much improved outside shooter, getting some great offensive boards and, keeping the possessions alive and everything else like that. But how excited are you about the future of these two bigs together?
I mean, they're terrific, and today what do we get out of them? 30 points, I think something like 17 boards, even 3 block shots we got, right? So I think the big knock on these two, and it's still a bit of a concern for me, is their ability to protect the rim, right? They're not known for that, but the production we're getting is terrific. They bounce well off each other. I think we've seen with Jock Landale, what did he play, like 16 minutes or something today, and he put up like ridiculous numbers. He's a plug-and-play guy.
He is.
Yeah, I mean, he just comes in and he does his job, and I think there'll be occasions where Okongwu could play less in different matchups, and Landale might play more. So, and you got Mohamed Gay there as well. So between the three of them, it's looking promising, man. Really happy. Yeah.
Would you say Jock Landale is easily the most Aussie-sounding Australian in the NBA at the moment?
Jock Landale.
No, they were calling him Jack Landale. There's all been variations. So get it right, guys. But I love his half-time interviews.
Landale.
Yeah, Jack Landale. That was some good ones last week, I know. But look, I'm really thrilled with the way he's fit in there, and he showed that he wanted to commit to the team. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. He drove from Memphis and did a long drive to Atlanta and started in that first game and put up 20 plus points there. But yeah, really enjoying seeing it. Look,
tell us about his halftime interviews. You were saying, man?
Oh, he just sounds so Aussie and stuff like that. And it's hilarious, right?
Yeah,
Madison, the Hawks, sideline.
Yeah.
Commentator always gets in there. But you mentioned about the rim protection there, Woods. I would say Onyeka Okongwu does block some pretty good shots. He's just a little bit undersized. I mean, I've said before, I reckon Jalen Johnson's actually taller than Onyeka, which is pretty funny when you consider he's our 5 Onyeka. But he can protect the rim a little bit. He's just a little bit undersized. You're going against some of these unicorn type guys, and he'll struggle a little bit. But no, he's had another great season. He hit he's over 100 threes made for the season now, Woods. Now, can you believe that, right? Every season, they said this guy's going to be come back with a 3-point shot, and it just never happened, did it? But boy, has it happened this year. He could be on pace for close to 150 made threes, I would have thought, which is a huge effort for some guy that could not shoot him at all to save himself in those first few years. So that's been a good sign. And look, finally, Woods, on this NBA Hawks Talk edition here. So Atlanta, our boys, have got 23 games left. Currently 128. How many wins do you think get us into the play-in there? That's part one of the question. Do you think getting through the play-in and actually making the playoffs is achievable this year?
It's going to be hard, right? I think probably around the 38 mark.
Yeah,
I would say
38 to 40, right?
Yeah, I think
which is not
like
great, but
But it's going to be hard, right? You want to get in that 7th or 8th spot. The Hornets are coming. The Bucks are just hanging around. I think the Bulls are dead now, right? They're out of it.
They're struggling, aren't they? Yeah, the Bucks are coming, aren't they? They're sort of one team to watch out for. I think if it finished right now, I think we'd be playing Miami, who we've had mixed success against this year. But you're right, Charlotte's coming, but they've also lost a couple lately. Did you see LaMelo Ball, by the way, today, doing one-legged running threes and stuff? He's hilarious to watch, right? But it's going to be interesting to see who makes it. Charlotte's probably that one that no one thought, no one saw this coming. Even a Charlotte, second fan like you.
Man, I'm really happy though.
They've been really good. And Chicago's the one that they just seem to be, on free fall at the moment. So, All right, well, yeah, some exciting times ahead for the Hawks. I think they're trying to still get all these new guys in. I mean, don't forget Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum haven't been there that long. I like the way both those guys have fit in there. Trying to get Jock Landale and then Jonathan Kuminga. So it's a few pieces that Coach Quinn Snyder will try and complete this puzzle there. And hopefully for our sake they make the play-in. Look, we know they're just a play-in team every year, but they actually get out of the play-in, make the playoffs, and then who knows? Try and cause an absolute upset and knock out a Detroit or a New York or something like that. But yeah, looking forward to see how that goes. And look, Woods, we haven't always had time to discuss the WNBL, have we? So I thought we should do a little bit of a recap of that at the moment. So actually, we should say, Woods, let's go back a little bit because we didn't talk about the NBL playoff series, and that's my bad on that one. So let's maybe before we go to WL, we can talk about final series for both. So I know you've got a pretty cool looking slide there. So apologies, we missed that earlier, but yeah, that's the cool slide that we've seen going around there. So as we mentioned, there's no games this weekend due to a fever break, and then Wednesday next week, so Wednesday week, Southeast against Perth, and then the Friday is the elimination game between Melbourne and Tassie. So you can see how the format works there, right? Whoever wins the Southeast and Perth game finishes third and plays Adelaide in the playoffs. The loser of that will play the survivor of Melbourne and Tasmania. So maybe give me some tips for that, Woods. Who wins out of Southeast and Perth and plays Adelaide?
I think Southeast win.
Mm-hmm. And what about the other one, Melbourne, Tassie?
I think Melbourne will probably win. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go Melbourne to win.
So you're saying Melbourne, Perth will be in the playing game to see who finishes fourth. Who's winning that? That would be Perth.
I would say Perth is going to be winning that one, right? Okay. I'm going to have Melbourne missing out. I know you've got some different ideas about it, right?
Well, I mean, look, I'm going to put my homer hat on, Woods. I'm going to say Perth beat Southeast, right? They go straight into that series against Adelaide, which would be a fun series. Mike Wells and John Riley, will be going against each other in that one. I think Melbourne will easily beat Tasmania in that one. And then wouldn't this be a mouth-watering playing game to see who finishes fourth out of Melbourne and Southeast? We saw Melbourne win that game last time. I'm going to shock you here, Woods. I'm going to say Melbourne. You heard it. I might look like a goose if I'm wrong here, but you've got to make some of these calls sometimes. I'm going to say Melbourne beat Southeast, finish fourth, and play your Sydney Kings in the semi-finals.
Yeah, so
Am I crazy or what?
No, I think it's possible, right? But I mean, earlier today when we were talking offline, you said, I think Melbourne has a chance to go all the way to the grand final, and I was just thinking in my head, the only way for that to happen is because you want your Perth Wildcats to get through. You're not going to bet against them, right? So by your thinking, the only way for that to happen is that the Wildcats winning that away game against Southeast Melbourne, right?
That's how I see it. And then, basically Melbourne get to play in their home city against a team that, they've just beaten 2 weeks ago, and albeit in a game that didn't have a lot to play for that one. But I think they're the danger team, Woods. They've got some big game players in their team. Guys like Ian Clark, right? He's just done it at so many different stages now. You'd be worried about him. So for Southeast, Ian Clark, in that, you'd be worried about playing against him. But I think Melbourne, I don't know, something about
Jesse Edwards,
Yeah, I just have a funny feeling, right? Chris Golding.
Milton Doyle.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Milton Doyle, who's, will stink it up for 3/4 of every game he seemingly plays and then looks like the best player on the court for the fourth quarter. Sorry, I'm mistaken between Clark and Doyle there. I was meant to say Doyle. So, Doyle, is someone that you've really got to be scared for. Chris Golding, he could just win a playoff, play-in game on his own back, couldn't he? He could go out and put up a 30-piece or something. So, be really interested to see how this goes. And meanwhile, while this happens, Adelaide and Sydney just to get back to kick back, right? You wonder if it's that rest versus rust thing, but maybe this time of year it's the break they need. But this could essentially be a 2-week break for your Kings, right? So no games this weekend, there will be, wouldn't it? So I think the actual playoffs would start, maybe Friday week, right? I would have thought, maybe Saturday even. So basically more than a 2-week break for Sydney, which don't know. Not sure if I like that or not, but I appreciate you putting it up. Well, let's talk some WNBL, Woods. I know you've got the scores there. So look, the finals are decided. It's between Perth and Townsville. It was number 1 and 2 during the season. Townsville were the minor premiers there. Let's start off with Perth, Woods, because it felt like they wrapped up their semis a while ago, right? They were really good against the Spirit, right? So they had a 10-point win in game 2, and then it was a 10-point win in game 1, 6-point win in game 2. So close games. I think this Perth team's looking really good, right? The Chinese edition halfway through the year she's a difference, right? I don't know if you saw her in game 2. She had massive numbers in that game, and they seem to be really clicking. We know Emily Maley's had a really good season, as she always does. And look, for me, I said to you offline again today, I'm still not sure whether I'm a fan of Perth or Sydney. I sort of like both of them in WNBL, which is you'll never hear me say that in NBL Woods, you know that, right?
Yeah, I know.
In WNBL, I've got a soft spot for both teams. I'd really like to see Perth win. It's been a long time since they took out the chip there. But look, Townsville's going to be really tough to beat. You look at these scores, though, Woods. What was going on in this semi-final series, right? So it was Townsville by 28 in game one, Southside by 20 in game two, and then it was a 10-point win for Townsville yesterday. Of course, coached by the Don't Call Me, what's his name?
Michael Clark.
Michael Clark, dead ringer for him. Michael Clark, the ex-cricketer there. Shannon Seabomb, shout out to him. But yeah, Townsville, very strange series. They looked pretty good in that series yesterday. They've got a lot of veterans on that team that have been there, maybe a little bit more experience when it comes to these big final series than maybe what Perth do. Give me some thoughts. Who's winning this final series?
I think Townsville. I think that was a battle-hardened series, right? I know it was the first two games were one-sided, but in that third game, the teams came together.
Yeah.
And Townsville just held on. Maddie Rocci and Kayla George. Those two brought it. 45 points between them.
Yeah.
Maddie Rocci was doing everything to try and get him into that game, and she nearly got there. But Alicia Folding, big time. 26 points, 9 boards. Courtney Woods doing a thing, showing great leadership there. I think that team is looking strong, and then they showed it through the regular season as well. They got a great home crowd there that gets right behind that ball club.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go Townsville in 3.
Yeah, good analysis there, Woods. I mean, it's one of those signs for me. I think my heart is saying Perth. I really want Perth to win, but I think my head's saying Townsville. I think just some of those vets that you spoke about there, some big game players, and maybe having that 3-game series, and probably not getting a lot of time off. Perth wrapped up their series a week ago already now, so I hope we get a really good final series. I think it's been a pretty good year, I think, for the WNBL. I think we both agree, right?
Yeah.
It's been it's been a lot better to follow. I think the coverage has been better. Still think they need some stuff needs some work, like their website, no good. They need to find another person to put that website together. I always seem to have issues finding what I want to find on that website. But looking forward to a really good final series. Shout out to all the people playing in that between Townsville and Perth, and we'll certainly keep everyone updated with that going forward. So, all right, appreciate that, Woods, putting those slides together. Let's finish off with some true false, and we get out of here, right? So, all right, true false. We teased this at the start of the show, but true or false, Woods? NBL expansion to bring in 1 to 2 new teams is needed for the league to continue to thrive.
I'll say true with a caveat. It's about infrastructure, right? You got to have a proper infrastructure, like a stadium that is fit for purpose. But when I say infrastructure, train stations or transport around there, easy to get to. All of those things need to be ticked off, right? But then, yes, I'm all for it.
Yeah, definitely true for me. Look, I still don't feel like 10 teams is enough, right? And we've seen, what's the most we had in the NBL? I know we had 16, didn't we?
We had 18, man.
Was that 18?
Yeah.
I mean, look, we probably don't want to go down that path because it's not sustainable, I think. But, I'd like to see it happen. I think it's going to be Gold Coast and Canberra, right? They're going to go back to places where they've been. There's always been rumours of another Sydney team or another Perth team. I wouldn't like to see that. I'd like to see them go to these other places. It is a national league, right? Could you ever see a day where we get a second New Zealand team, Woods?
I mean, it's going to be tough, right? Like even one right now, they've been going through some struggles like over the last few years. So I think unless they can, Sydney and New Zealand, I don't know, man. I think probably like a Gold Coast, a Canberra, a Geelong even, right?
Well, give me a third team, right? So I think we both agree that Gold Coast and Canberra are probably the next likely. Who would be the third team that might
Geelong,
surprise people?
Darwin.
Geelong. What about like a Newcastle or something like that? No,
I doubt it. I
don't quite have the stadium and stuff, do they?
Infrastructure once again, right?
I don't see Darwin being a key. I don't see that happening. So maybe Geelong, you reckon? We get another. We get a third team in Victoria.
What about going back to Townsville or North Queensland? Somewhere I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, right? I mean, they've already got 2 Queensland teams. They're talking about Gold Coast. Can we really have 4 teams in Queensland? We've done it before. I don't know whether... Yeah, so look, I think Canberra and Gold Coast will be the ones that I think we're both all for it. So, good stuff. All right, the next one. I feel strongly about this one, Wood, so I want to get your thoughts. So, true, false, the NBL should consider allowing each team to have an import replacement that trains and is with the team throughout the season. So, for those that don't know, I've spoken about this example a few times with Withers playing for... Todd Withers, right? Woods? not Justin Withers.
And Lamar Patterson this year.
Yeah, Lamar Patterson. So essentially, people that don't know, they're part of the team, they train with the team, and they can play at any given night. So if you've got a doubleheader that weekend, and on the Friday night, let's say, for example, let's say Tim Suarez for Sydney, right? Let's say he injures his ankle, he's out for 5 or 6 days, right? They can bring their replacement import. He can play in that next game, right? He's pretty much on the bench the whole season, but in street clothes, but he can actually play. They put him on the nominate him to play that game and he can play. I really liked how teams like Perth did it last year. As you said, Brisbane have done it. Do you think the NBL should make this something that they should?
They already have. It's a rule right now. It's just people don't use it.
No, I know that. But do you think it should be like every team has to do it? So you basically that's part of your contract.
No, I think it's up to them to make the decision. They don't have to, because then that means they've got to pay another guy to just be a training player throughout the season. So the financial situation might not be.
But I'd like the NBL to make that part of the salary, right? So it's basically you have to do it. There's no like yes or no you want to do it. So what we might see teams do in that regard is maybe sign some of these guys out of the NBL one. Guys that were really sort of, putting up some numbers in the various NBL 1 competitions, sign them. Great opportunity for them. They get to train and be with an NBL team every day. And who knows, right? We've seen so many injuries with imports this year, right? It could be a goldmine for one of these guys that gets one of these spots. So, look, it probably won't happen. I'd like it to, and I like that, teams have the option to do it, like you said there. But I thought I'd throw that one out there.
Well, it would make more sense, really, to have an injury replacement player as a local, not an import. In those scenarios you mentioned, the imports or coming into the season with questionable health, right? Brisbane had some health issues. Last year, you guys had health issues, and you knew that Todd Withers was going to be called upon for Windler and others at various times during the season. So the tactical decision was made. We don't want to be down an import when Windler has to rest a back-to-back or potentially or something like that, right? So,
hey, just quietly, Brisbane had more than injury problems as well. But,
whatever it was, man.
For sure. Yeah. All right, let's throw it to an Aussies and the NBA one, Wood. So we will see Duop Reith, Dante Exum and Luke Travers all back in the NBA next season. True, false?
False. I hope we have none of them back, man. For God's sake, I want them to go and spread their wings, because I think they're at a point in their careers right now where go get that paper, man.
Who's the more likely that we'll see in the NBA next year out of those? For me, it's probably Duop Reith.
Yep.
But I mean, Dante Exum though, like, he's someone that was, really fell out of favour a little bit. He just can't seem to stay healthy. When he's playing, he's good. Maybe a team takes a punt on him, but for me, maybe it's Duop Reith.
He had a great year last year, Dante, when he was fit, right? And put up really good numbers. So I think he might stay in the NBA. I really think Reith, I think it's unlikely to see all three of them, but Reith might be the most likely.
Could we see Duop Reith back in the NBL if it doesn't work out? I've got that nice little Royal Hawks jersey. I always want him to be a Wildcat there, but geez, he would dominate. Not dominate. I mean, there's a lot of good centres in the league, but he'd be really fun to watch, wouldn't he?
He would be.
In the NBL. Yeah. All right, and the last one was a bit of a funny one, this one. So Kevin Durant having a burner phone to throw out insults on social media is ridiculous, but it's also hilarious.
Of course, it's hilarious, man. And then I always say this to everyone: there's Kevin Durant, the kid that won that MVP and dedicated to all his team back at OKC. That was innocent. And then there's this Kevin Durant guy who's just like so worried about what everyone thinks about him. I don't know if the burner account is real or not, but one thing we do know is Kevin Durant's insecure about this stuff.
He's so insecure, right? For those that haven't heard the story, there's people have, I think he's been caught before, it's safe to say, with a burner phone. There's still talk that he's got one now. He's been throwing shade to your boy Jabari Smith-Woods and some ex-teammates that he was with Phoenix with last season. So I think it's probably true for both of it. It's ridiculous, but it is also hilarious that a grown man would choose to have a second phone with an anonymous login there that he just goes and just pays people out, or, people that have a go at him, he has a go at them. I think it's quite funny, but that's who he is by now, Kevin Durant, right?
What shade did he throw Jabari Smith?
Just basically, I don't know if it was your usual thing about rebounds, but just basically he needs to be better, essentially. So, I thought that was quite funny. But then also throwing shade at some of his ex-Phoenix Suns teammates. So, all right, nice one. Well, it's a good way to finish there with a bit of a humorous one on true false. So, look, we've fitted a lot in today, haven't we? We've we've gone through all the different leagues. Some WNBL this week. We've had our Hawks talk and a lot of talk on NBL and everything. We're really excited for this coming week of NBL. Still not sure I love this fever break, but anyway, it seems like it's here to stay and the team's going to break. But we'll take it to a quick outro now, though, Woods. As I mentioned at the start of the show, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. look out for us on X there at Throwback Hoops. I know Woods posted the card of the week last week. That great card of the week was that 1969 Lou Hudson. A few people have been saying how much they like that one. And we'll get this lovely Karim Lopez auto card on there, and maybe one of our jerseys, maybe a bit of Jesse on there for the jersey for the week. Patreon, we mention it every week, but if anyone wants to pledge some support, a couple of dollars a month, we'd really appreciate that. Final words from yourself, Woods. What are you looking forward to this weekend? Are you going to be watching any FIBA basketball? We saw the Boomers team that was announced. Maybe there's no other NBL to compete with, so maybe we'll watch it. But any other thoughts? What are you looking forward to this week?
Yeah, definitely going to watch some of that, watch some NBA. Yeah, man, excited. This is the stage of the season, or 25 odd games, 20 to 25 games left for everyone. That amount. So it's really gonna start forming the story of who's going to be in what position and whatnot. So really excited to see that all unfold. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, just quickly on that one as well, Woods, before we wrap it up, there's been a lot of guys missing time in the NBA, so we know we've got that games limit for awards and stuff. So there's going to be a lot of good players that aren't eligible for awards, guys like the Joker and guys like Giannis and these sort of people. Who knows what happens with Luka going forward. So SGA's out at the moment, I don't know, it might just be like a default thing that someone like Anthony Edwards can win one of these big awards. Kawhi, 100%. Mate, shout out to Kawhi, he's in great form at the moment. So, although he passed up that game when he shot today for your boy Ben Mathurin. It was a good play, but anyway. All right, well, that was great fun, Woods. Really appreciated all your input this week. Looking forward to the coming weeks. Some guests we've got lined up as well. We will get to those. And big peace out from the Throwback Hoops crew.
Peace out, guys.